Daksh, give me a brief intro of yourself.
So, I'm Daksh Banerjee. I live in Dubai and I'm 15 years old. And yeah, I'm excited to study economics with you.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're from Dubai. So you're like
yep.
you're Baniju means you're a Bengali guy, right?
Yeah. I'm from India, but I live in Dubai. Yeah,
Got it. All right. Hi, I'm Devji. I'm
yep,
also a Bengali, Devji
yep,
Chaudhary. I'm from Calcutta, and
yep.
I'll be taking taking charge of your economics preparation for your grade 10 level. All right.
Yep.
So
Perfect.
Uh, First of all, before we uh, go into any details or anything in specific about the subject and all that, what is your basic idea of economics?
So, my idea is like we can. I guess my idea. Yeah. So how the government can tackle like economical problems such as, let's say, for example, inflation, unemployment levels, etc. That's my view on
Oh,
economics.
um,
Yeah,
okay, fine. That is, you're talking about something that you're telling me in terms of how or what are the issues related to economics or what can be resolved
yeah,
and all that. I'm not
yeah.
asking that. I'm asking you if I ask you today, define economics. How would you do that?
So, I mean, I've learned a lot, but I don't know what to say like for the
So,
subject.
what is
Yeah,
economics? First of all, it's a social science, the first thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And what exactly does this social science entail? It basically entails the study of interaction of people with something of value. Okay,
okay,
so it
okay,
can be, economics can be, in terms of value of anything. Okay,
yeah,
you can have an economical value of a product. Okay, in terms of how the product is made, the resources required. Then
yeah,
economics involves marketplace, your value of
yeah,
your product in the marketplace, and the demand in that marketplace of that particular product. So
yeah,
basically, production, basically that is manufacturing, distribution, and consumption are the three aspects of economics. Okay.
yeah,
Now, the next, you have sent me a file, I guess, with
yeah,
exact units that you need to
yeah.
study.
That's the units. Yeah, coming in January exam.
Okay.
So
So there
yeah,
are, I think, how markets work, organizing production and growth of firms, government economic policy, and economic indicators. These are the four, unit names that you've sent me.
yeah.
Can you just tell me what book are you exactly, referring to in your school?
So we're using the Oxford Complete Economics for Cambridge, IGSE, and O Level, second edition
Okay.
by Sir Dan Moynihan
Do you have a
and
soft?
Brian.
Do you have a soft copy of that book?
Soft copy? No, I don't think so. But I could try and find one like later
Yeah,
after the
because
class.
you should be getting a soft copy along with the book when you buy it, right? In the sense that they'll probably give you a CD or something, like in that sense, so that you can
Yeah,
upload on.
I bought the book secondhand. I mean, because it was cheaper and
Obviously.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah,
fine. If you can just get a soft copy of the book you're specifically studying in your school, then that would help me. Okay. Because
okay,
in the IB curriculum, the exam is very teacher oriented. So depending
yeah,
on the book the teacher is teaching you, I'll have to prepare you according to that.
okay,
So after the
yeah,
session, it would really help me if you could get me a soft copy of the book that you're studying.
yeah. I'll try my best to find one. Yeah,
All right. Now, then let's begin with the first chapter, which is you sent me is how markets work. Today we'll be discussing on a very theoretical level. Okay. Today is our first
okay,
session. I don't want to get into any anything specific or anything in terms of a practical example on the global marketplace or anything like that.
yeah,
We'll just be talking very simple terms so that the basics of the subject is clear with you. So
yeah,
the first topic is demand. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you understand by demand?
So demand is the willingness and ability to purchase any product at any given price.
Okay, fine. So that is kind of the textbook definition of it.
Yeah.
So what do you understand from it? What is demand to you?
So demand to me is like I would have a demand for a certain product only if I would be able to buy it, and that's
Obviously, you
yeah,
you
yeah,
demand the product which is available in the market for you
yeah,
to sell. That is
yeah,
obviously all right. So what if I tell you, demand can be of various types. Okay. So first of all, you have a demand which is kind of a compulsory demand, something that you cannot, ignore, like your regular food, right?
yeah,
Uh, Regardless of what the price of food products is, that demand for that product will never, waver, because that's something you require at all times. The
yeah,
second thing, maybe second type of demand, may be something like a laptop, okay, which you demand based on your circumstance. So, if you're like how we are doing online classes, so you need a computer system for that. So, fine, there's a demand for that. Then, I'm sure, like since you're young, you've heard of like earphones like Beats by Dre and all that.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so yeah, they have huge demand, but then supply is low. Okay,
yeah,
because they want to keep the brand demand high, so the brand value stays high. Okay, so there are various types of demand, and it is not just the willingness of the purchaser that sets the demand. So there are various factors that affect why something is of demand to us. Okay, or what exactly would be the demand of a particular thing. Okay, now let's get into. Okay, what is a market?
So a market, we can say that I don't know a specific term, but we can say that any place where there can be goods sold at any given prices, I guess.
Mm, fine. That is what you've said is logically correct. You can just say it is
Yeah.
a place where a group of buyers and sellers, through their interaction, determine the demand for a product.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if a seller has 100 earphones to sell, and if a buyer wants to purchase, if the buyers want to purchase only 50, then we have settled at a demand of 50. So from next month or from the next allotted time frame, that
Yeah.
seller will produce 50, earphones. So that way, marketplace is just a place where sellers and buyers interact to get a particular reference as to what the price of a product should be based on supply and demand. All right. Do you want to write all this down, or do you think
Yeah.
conceptually,
I can write it down. I mean, it would be better.
yeah, whichever way you're
So
comfortable, tell me. Okay.
yeah.
So fine. So just write first of all, write the definition of a market. Okay, it is a group of buyers and sellers who, through their interaction, determine the price of a good.
So a group of buyers and sellers.
Uh, who, through their interaction,
Yeah.
determine the price of a good.
Okay.
Next, write the definition of a demand, the one which you the one which you said, which was absolutely right. The desire, willingness, and ability to buy a good or service.
Okay. Yeah.
The third term would be market demand. Okay, we've done what market is, what demand is. Market
Yeah.
demand. Exactly is market demand. Market demand is basically nothing but the total amount of demand created by all consumers for a particular product.
Okay.
Okay. Also, let's just write down a couple of basic definitions of economics as well. What is economics? I told you it is economics is a social science. Let me contact you. Yeah. Let me know, okay, when I should tell you the definition of economics.
Yeah, go ahead.
Economics is a social science that studies how people interact with value.
A social science that.
That studies how people interact with value, in particular, production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services.
So, a social science that studies how people interact with value of.
With value, in particular, right
Okay.
after value, write a comma, in particular, again a
Yeah.
comma, the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there are two types of economics. Okay, before we get into supply demand and all, you should know this. One is microeconomics and macro. Can you do you have
Yeah.
an idea of it? I think both the words, if you know the meaning of the words itself, a definition pops up. So can you just tell me something?
So I'm pretty sure macro is to do with like uh more of the country's economy.
Excellent. You gave an example of inflation, which was
Yeah.
macroeconomics.
Yeah.
Okay. What is micro?
Micro is to do with just the basics of economics.
Not basics. It is to do with individual economics.
Okay. Okay.
So your economics, what is your earning? What is your expense? What is your requirements? What are your luxuries that you like that you want to purchase, and how much do you have to earn for that? Anything related
Yeah.
to you is microeconomics, and anything related to an entity, a big entity like a state, okay, or a country,
Okay.
or even a continent. Okay, so
Yeah.
like in terms of uh, mm, suppose I think Pfizer has taken out a 80% effective vaccine, okay, for the coronavirus. Okay, so what under which purview would it come? Micro or macro?
Um. Would it be macro because it would help the whole
Excellent.
country?
So there'll be a
Yeah.
global distribution of that product, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that subject would come under macroeconomics. And micro is basically what I told you, the food example. Okay, so
Yeah.
the food in your area, the farmer who's planting these crops and stuff. It's all related
Yeah.
to him individually. So yeah, that is micro. Okay, so micro, macro. I think I should give you a definition of both. Which okay. So I'll just give you a small definition. Okay. I want you to note it down. All right. So
Yeah.
microeconomics analyzes basic elements in the economy, including individual agents and markets.
So if you can share screen, like you have the definitions on your laptop, right?
Yeah, but then it's like it's taken from different places. So
Yeah.
as soon as I get a soft copy of your book, right, from next
Yeah.
session onwards, then I can actually share the screen and actually
Okay.
get everything done properly. Just for today's session, I would like you to just note it down. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So can you just repeat the microeconomics
see,
definition?
one way I can do it is I can just put it up in the chat window and you can just take it from
Yeah.
there.
Sure. That's fine.
One second. Yeah, I put it
Yeah.
up on the top. Just note that. So I see that you're a musician. kind of.
Yeah, I used to be like a year ago. I did guitar till grade 7, Trinity, and then I stopped doing it due to
Mm,
school pressure and stuff.
okay. So,
Yeah.
are you into sports? Any
Yeah,
athletic?
I'm into football. Yeah,
You can
soccer.
see behind me, like, big Chelsea
Yeah,
fan.
yeah, yeah.
Whom do you support?
I support Barca. I mean, they're doing.
Right now, let's not talk
Yeah,
about Barca. It's not a
yeah, exactly.
happy thing to be discussing. Okay.
Yeah,
Leo is going to be leaving very soon.
yeah.
Will you continue to support Barca if Messi leaves? Because I think from the moment you've started supporting Barca, Messi's been there, right? Like in your
I
age
mean,
bracket.
yeah. Messi has been there for a long time. So,
So, like, do you support
but
Barca for Messi, or is it like you support Barca? That is the distinction you
no,
have
I
to.
support Barca. Like Barca.
Oh, fine. I used to love Barcelona when Ronaldinho used to play there.
Oh, yeah. That time was good.
Slightly before your time, like a few years before you
Yeah,
must have. Uh, we had this Ronaldinho, Eto, and all. It was crazy team.
yeah. Okay, yeah. I wrote down the definition.
Okay. It analyzes basic elements in the economy, including individual agents and markets, their interactions, and the outcomes of interactions. Individual agents may include households, firms, buyers, sellers, etc. All right. I want you to note down the definition of macroeconomics as well. Um, yeah. Macroeconomics analyzes the economy as a system where production, consumption, saving, and investment interact, and factors affecting it, employment of the resources of labor, capital, and land, currency, inflation, economic growth, and public policies that have impacted on these elements. It's very important that you understand conceptually what these things are, okay? Because the
Yeah,
definitions are something you're going to just memorize for the exams. But if you do want a career in the future where you want to be related to the branch of economics, then you need to
yeah.
understand the concepts. What are you planning to do? What are your goals in terms of, do you want to be a techie, or do you want to be something into this
I mean,
finance?
I want to be into techie, but like having economics and a good, being strong in the subject. I guess it can open some more doors.
Fine,
In the future.
correct. Um, it will open doors definitely. Actually, the IB board, yeah, I'm thinking in terms of education in my country, where it's quite
Okay.
restrictive in the sense like if you do
Yeah.
one thing, you can't take one subject from another branch. But in the IB board, yes, you have the luxury and the opportunity of doing that, which is very nice. So you can do that. What programming languages do you know?
I do mainly Java and HTML. For now, I'm coding a game using C Sharp on
Okay.
Unreal Engine for a personal project I'm doing. And in digital design, yeah, we usually use Java and some
So,
other basic ones.
like website designing and all, you generally do through HTML and all that, right?
Yeah, HTML, CSS, and Java.
Yes, yeah. So, I'm also like, I just know a few languages, like C++,
Yeah,
Java, and Python. Python is a language I think you should learn. Okay,
yeah,
if you're learning coding, right? Because
yeah,
it's a common factor in a lot of different aspects of the science. So Python is something if you can do learn. Okay.
yeah.
All right. What do we do next? And so I think I told you the definition of market demand as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Now the next thing that I would like to discuss with you is what is the demand schedule? Okay.
Okay.
So a demand schedule is nothing but a table, okay, with two columns. One is the pricing of the item, and the second column is the amount of that item or the quantity of that item required. Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of a definition, I'll tell you, it is a table that lists the various quantities of a product that will be brought at different prices. Okay. Write that down.
Yeah.
Demand schedule, and then write this definition which I'm telling you. A table that lists the various quantities of a product
Yeah.
that will be bought at different prices. So it can be, I'll give you an example of what exactly this definition means. You can have a bottle of Coke, which is a 300 ml bottle, a small one.
Yeah.
You can have a 500 ml bottle. You can have a 1 liter bottle. You can have a 1.25 liter bottle. Then you have a 2 liter bottle. And then you have large supplies. So this
Yeah.
bottles, the quantity and the pricing of the bottle will go on your left column, right? So the 300 ml bottle is suppose say 30 bucks. Okay. So on the left column, you will have the name of the product 300 ml slash rupees 30, suppose. And on the
Yeah.
right, the demand of that particular bottle. So it is just on one product. Okay. It's not like the products are different. It's just the
Okay.
variation, the quantity of that product and the demand for the the varying quantities. Why do you think like they took out the same product in different sizes of bottles? Because they saw that the demand for a smaller bottle is way higher, even though the profit margins are lower. So in an overall cost sense, you get quite a bit of profit through that as well. Okay, because the
Okay.
demand is higher. Even if you make less profit per unit, you are still selling so many units that it covers up the entire margin. Okay, that is why they do that. I think that's common sense. Okay, so yeah, that is what a demand schedule is. We'll get into schedule and all that if in required in depth once I go through your book. Okay, I need to
Okay.
exactly go through the portions that are there with that are relevant to you. Economics is a huge branch. Okay?
Yeah.
So I can't just teach you supply and demand of you know everything. Okay, so I have to be specific to you. So in that context, I need a book. That's fine. All right. The next thing that we'll be discussing is 1 second. A demand curve. Okay. What is a demand curve? A demand curve is basically a graph that shows the amount of a product that will be bought at all possible prices.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just 1 second. I'll share the demand curve screen with you. I can get one on here. Okay, yes, I think this page should be doing it. I just share a page, okay? Just to see that. Can you see this page?
Yeah. Now I can see it.
Okay. So this is what we call a law of demand. Okay. The demand curve follows the law of demand. So basically, as the price of a good increases, the quantity demanded decreases.
Yeah.
It makes logical sense, right? Doesn't it? Suppose you have, say, mm, a particular brand of spectacles, okay, which people are buying. So while you are giving offers to people, okay, that you can buy, instead of buying one at 2,000, you can buy a couple, okay, and then after the then the demand is very high at that point. But then once you take out those offers, the demand drastically drops because now the price has literally doubled. If somebody wants to buy two, we'll have to spend 4,000 rupees. So that is basically what this law of demand is. Just write this law of demand down.
Yeah.
Then we'll get into the graph there.
Yeah, I have it now.
Okay. Now, this graph that is given, can you just draw that graph on your on your workbook?
Yeah, sure.
So P is price and Q is quantity. Okay, the two axes. It's a very simple curve.
Yep.
Okay. This is what we call a negative slope. Okay. So if you look at this graph here, you'll see that when the price is high, okay, that is as you go higher, the quantity reduces. When the price is low, the quantity or the demand is high. Okay, that is what the law of demand is, and this is a graphical representation of the same law. That's okay. There's nothing complicated or confusing about it. Yes? All right. So by the law of demand, the demand curve is a decreasing negative slope. As the price of a good increases, some consumers will stop consuming or will decrease the quantity and in its place look for other less expensive goods. This is what we call substitution effect. Okay. So what is substitution effect? Basically, something you like has become too expensive and you can't afford it, and you replace that thing with something that is more affordable. That is it. In economics, one thing you see is if you know English well, the subject kind of is self-explanatory in a lot of aspects. Okay, so yeah, please note down what exactly the substitution effect is.
So the exact definition is.
Yeah, as the there's no exact definition of any substitution effect. It's just shown through an example. So what is
Okay.
given there is good enough, I think. If you look at the graph and you then look at this basic example of the substitution effect, I think the concept will be clear. Do you want me to give you a specific definition of the substitution effect?
No, yeah, I can understand it.
If you have any doubts at any point, Daksh, please ask. Okay? Anything
Yeah.
that I'm saying that you're not getting, if you don't get anything that I say, do ask. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you wrote what substitution effect is. The next is income effect. Okay. So as the price of a good increases, buying power is reduced, and consumers react by reducing their consumption of all goods. This is what we call income effect. Income effect means your income is still constant, whereas the product in the market has changed price. Okay.
Yeah.
And hence, your purchasing power of that product, your power to purchase that product, has now gone. So that is what income effect basically is in terms of the concept. So yeah, write this down as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now that we've understood a bit about demand and a bit about the concept of demand, what do you think are the factors that affect demand?
So there could be seasonal changes. So for example, if it's winter, right, people would want more. There would be a increase in demand for, let's say, for example, hot chocolate. You know.
Mm, okay, got it. So
Yeah.
like something that's consumed in a particular season, the demand for that will increase in that season. That's
Yeah.
okay. But let's talk about products that are year round. Okay, that sell year round. Okay, and are not dependent on the season. So tell me factors affecting the demand of such products.
So if there is a cheaper subsidy, it could affect, like for example, if prices of um, tea increases, there could be a decrease in demand for that, obviously, but there could be an increase in demand for coffee as they can be
Okay, so
substituted.
in that example that you gave, the factor that comes out is the price of goods.
Yeah.
Okay, first thing is that. So note that down first. Factors
Yeah.
affecting demand. First thing is price of goods. Now, during the pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of businessmen lost their marketplace. Why did they
Yeah.
lose their clientele? Because their clientele don't have money to purchase the products that they have to sell because they have lost their jobs. So the second factor would be what? The income. Okay, so the income of the consumer.
Yeah.
Okay. Another factor that generally affects demand is, as you said, as we just read, the substitution effect, right? So alternative goods. So it would be the prices of other related goods, something we call POG. Okay. So prices of other related goods. Third factor. So, like, I'll tell you a practical example of this happening in my life, where I went to purchase an iPhone, and then
Yeah.
5 years ago or 5, 10 years ago, there was no alternative to the iPhone. Okay, in that context. Okay, in terms of the features provided by an iPhone. But today, we have there's the OnePlus community in China, the company OnePlus. So it offers exactly what an iPhone offers to you in terms of technology. Okay. Maybe not in terms of other things like reputation or image or whatever, but then
Yeah.
in terms of the tech, okay, it offers the same thing. So that's what you call a substitution effect. I've now shifted to a OnePlus phone. Okay. So basically, that's how alternative goods can affect your marketplace. Okay. Similarly, can you give me an example of an alternative good that has affected your purchasing of any item?
So I basically have a PC, like a gaming PC, right? First I wanted to buy a graphics card, but then like a really high end graphics card, right? But then there was AMD. AMD came out with their graphics cards, and the latest graphics card they came out with had the same what
Spec.
can I say? Like same
Mhm.
features and specs of the Nvidia graphics card, but it
Okay.
was much cheaper.
Okay.
So I ended up buying that one. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, you can see how substitution effect works, and that is competitiveness in the marketplace as well. Okay. So a
Yeah.
lot of things are interrelated, but let's not go into that. We just try to keep talking about only the things we are discussing. All right. So AMD, I think there's another Radon. There's another company, right? Or is it
Radeon, yeah. I mean,
Radeon?
Radeon's a sub company of AMD. Like AMD made Radeon.
Okay, okay. So like my laptop has a NVIDIA GeForce GTX. Okay, I'm just reading
Yeah,
it out. Okay,
yeah.
I don't think that's a very good graphics card. Okay.
I mean,
all,
for laptops, it's good.
all I
For
can kind
laptops,
of
yeah,
play like I think COD and all are the ones which the definition graphics definition games I generally play. So yeah,
yeah.
not much in it. So 1050i something it's called. So yeah, what laptop do you have?
So I have a Surface laptop.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it has a GTX 1050 Ti, I think. Yeah, it does.
So it's
Uh,
you personally assembled it or
yes, no. So this is I'm talking about the laptop I'm using right now, like my school
okay,
laptop.
okay.
And my PC, yeah, I made it myself. I upgraded it like
Got
during
it.
the summer. Yeah, and I have an RTX 2080 Super NVIDIA graphics card, and I have a Ryzen 7 3500X, and just the basic 32 GB RAM and other stuff.
Okay. So like you're very
Yeah,
much into gaming. So what kind of games do
yeah.
you play?
So I play competitive games because I make money from them, and I just like competition. You know.
Okay. So like
Yeah,
what? Dota and all are competitive games, right?
yeah, but I play the more the first person and third person shooter side. So I play Fortnite, I play Warzone, I play a lot of COD games and
Okay.
stuff like that. Yeah.
And you're like part of teams and all like, who compete
No, I'm not
according.
part of team, but yeah, I just make some money.
Okay. Dota. Sorry. Fortnite, right? Uh,
Yeah, Fortnite. Yeah,
Fortnite is a game which I've heard, and I've heard a reference to it also a lot on lots of shows and all. So
yeah.
yeah, Fortnite. Okay, but are the graphics requirement that high for Fortnite?
No, they're not. But I just use graphics like higher graphics for games like Minecraft where I want to
Okay.
see the aesthetic. And
Mhm.
yeah,
Minecraft.
And I used
Okay.
to play GTA as well. And yeah, for good aesthetic, that it
Do you
requires
play
a good
like
PC.
something like where the world is created, like Skyrim and all?
Skyrim, no, no. My
No.
PC can handle it for sure, but
Okay.
I have never played Skyrim. Yeah,
Like stuff like that also I find quite exciting, where
yeah,
it's adventure based thing. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
You're just dropped into a world and do stuff with your character. So that's
yeah,
pretty. All right. So yes, we've done what the factors are. I think price, income, price of other related goods. Okay. The next
yeah.
is preference. Preferences is an important factor that does you know affect demand. Okay. Preferences.
So would also trends be a factor, like trends?
Yeah. So trends is something that would come under preferences itself. Okay. You prefer or something trends when a lot of people
Yeah,
prefer. Right. So, like
yeah,
you had this trend of Pokemon Go, I think, a couple last year or year before, where suddenly people are, in India, everyone was playing that game, okay, on their cell phones. So
yeah.
at that time, the demand for Pokemon Go and the company that did produce that game was very high. Okay, and that is something that you're saying trend. That comes under this particular point only, preferences. Okay, you can write
Okay.
preferences
Yeah,
slash trends. Okay,
yeah,
in that point. All right. The next point would be the size of the market and number of consumers.
yeah.
Okay. So if you could just repeat out the factors that affect demand out to me, so that I know that you've written all of them down.
So I have price of goods, income of consumer, prices of other related goods, preferences slash trends, and size of market and number of consumers.
Okay. Fine. Now the next topic that we will be discussing. Now that demand curve that I showed you, and that you drew. How can that curve vary? Just look at that, and you have
How
to.
can the curve? Pardon?
How can that curve vary? Okay, like what are the factors or what can cause that curve to change its position?
Yeah,
So you have two factors there, right? Price and quantity.
yeah,
Price is on one axis and quantity is the other axis,
yeah,
right? So I think the y-axis was price and the
yeah.
x-axis is quantity.
It's
Okay.
quantity. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So I'm just going to show you the basic ways that graph can vary. Okay, just
yeah,
one factor only controls everything, as you can easily see. One second. Let me just share my window. So can you see this uh, image on your screen now?
yeah. I can see it.
So D0 is what you've drawn. Okay. So this middle one. All right. This is the graph you've drawn. Price
Yeah,
and quantity and this D0. When does the line shift to the left? Okay. Decrease in demand at every price will produce a left shift. Okay. That means
okay.
what? There's a decrease in demand of the product as a whole. Okay. So
Yeah,
like what we discussed, like Coke, for example, during the pandemic, there was a huge or a big difference in the demand of Coke, which is something of a, it's not a necessary product, right? Now, in any households where uh, the father has lost the job or lost his job, or the husband has lost his job, whatever, okay, in that aspect they would not be able to afford anything which is something which is not necessary in their everyday life. So it's pretty simple. If your demand for the product at every stage goes down, that is your demand for the product as a whole, then your curve shifts to the left. And
okay.
similarly, one second. Yeah, an increase in demand at every price will produce a right shift in the demand curve.
Yeah,
So I want you to write this down as well. Okay, because when you'll be given a question which is of a 10-15 mark context, you can draw three graphs there. Okay, first you draw a normal demand graph, then you tell if there is a loss in terms of the demand of a product at every pricing level of that product. Then there is a left shift. Then you draw a left shift. You draw two lines. Okay. So you draw the
Yeah.
D. First, you will draw the D0, and you will draw D1. Then again, you write, okay, if there is an increase in demand at every price level, there is a right shift. And then you again you draw a graph and you write D0. If you look at your book, you will see the same thing, okay, defined in a more complicated way, okay, where
Yeah.
they just added two, three more variables to that. Okay, these variables are what? Just factors. So, that is not relevant to a graph where we are not statistically measuring stuff and, it's not numerically correct. You're just drawing this graph by hand, right? So, that doesn't matter. Okay. So, in your book, you'll see there's 3, 4 pages on this graph alone, I'm sure. Okay. So, don't get confused. Don't think that, there's a lot more to it. There's nothing much to it. This is the concept
Yeah.
of it. That's all. Okay. In terms of more substantive notes and all. Again, as soon as I get your book, the specific book you have, and your specific syllabus that your teacher is teaching you, I will give you substantial more notes. Okay, don't worry about that. All right. Now let's go to our next one. One second. How do you move away from the reading here? Yeah. Okay. Now, the next thing is demand elasticity. Okay.
Yeah.
What do we mean by the term demand elasticity? Do you have any idea of that term?
Yes. So demand elasticity. One second. Let me just draw the graph, and then I'm pretty sure I'll remember the definition. So when demand elasticity is when a change in quantity demanded, no, a slight change in price would have a larger change in quantity demanded. Is it?
Okay, you're kind of what you're saying is kind of correct only.
Yeah.
It is basically how price affects the demand of a product. Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. So I'll just
Yeah. So
tell.
there is inelastic demand and elastic
Yeah,
demand. Yeah.
I'm just to, get some slide or something where I can present it on your screen here. Right. Yeah, I think this particular. Yeah. So what is the demand? Okay, this is what we mean. Okay. Out here, if you look, this is an inelastic demand.
Yeah.
Okay. Looks a bit weird, but it's a straight line. Okay. Similarly, this as well is an inelastic demand. Okay, where it's fixed. The pricing will not change. Okay. Do you know anything that is inelastic? Something in your life?
So I mean, there's stuff that is not perfectly inelastic because I my teacher said that perfectly inelastic is not possible in economics, like in the real market.
In practicality, it's not
So
achievable.
yeah. So for inelastic goods, we can say that necessities are inelastic. Um, we can say that goods that are addictive, like alcohol, cigarettes, those are inelastic. Um, and we can also say, could we say luxury goods?
Mm,
Like,
no, luxury goods would come under elastic, right?
okay, but like, let's say for example, a really rich person, right?
Yeah.
Uh, if they wanted to buy one car, like a specific one car, they wouldn't really care about the price, right?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That again, you can't take it, in like how you said, a luxury
Yeah,
item. You have to be very specific about it. Okay, because
yeah,
that what you're saying is absolutely correct. Like the price of an Aventador is not
yeah,
relevant to a person who can afford it. Like if
yeah,
there's a
exactly.
$50,000, shift in the price, it won't affect his purchasing, capability of that car. So yeah, okay,
Yeah,
fine. In that aspect, yes, elastic. the demand is inelastic in that context. Fine. The next one is so you can see there are two different types of curves.
Yeah.
Okay. For inelastic, it's you can see the curve doesn't change much. Okay,
Yeah.
there is no, it's as straight or as straight to practicality as you can get. But for an elastic product, it follows the demand curve. What you've done is you've just
Yeah.
curved. That's all. Okay, this one, the diagram is shown with a straight line. I think the guy who made this particular presentation doesn't know how to curve it. Okay, so yeah, note this graph down as well, please.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Um, Now, what are the factors that affect elasticity? Okay.
Okay.
Uh, these are the factors. As you said, one of them was necessity or luxury. Okay. Uh, is
Yeah.
it is it something that's absolutely necessary for survival, or for a certain level of survival, or is it a luxury product? The second thing is percentage of income. End of the day, everything in economics is related to the income or the purchasing power of the individual or the country. Okay. So yeah, percentage of income, necessity or luxury, availability of substitutes, that is what we call market competitiveness, and length of time. So tech
Yeah.
change. Like when I started off, when I was young, your age, not your age, I think a couple of years younger than you when I was. I think when we were 12 or something. So in our school, I grew up in a boarding school. Okay, on the hills of Darjeeling. Okay, so we kind of we had cassettes. We had Walkmans
Yeah.
basically. Okay. Today, like that is a technology that has been eradicated, you could say, okay, completely by
Yeah.
the USB devices, and now the USB devices also getting removed by what? Cloud computing. Okay. So length of time does affect a lot in terms of what the demand of a product is, and also
Yeah.
in terms of this particular elasticity factor. You have to factor in length of time whenever you're considering elasticity of a or the demand elasticity of a product. So how long
Yeah.
is the tech going to be viable? That is what you need to think. Similarly, how long is this particular medicine going to be viable? So the vaccine, the coronavirus vaccine, will
Yeah.
there will be a huge demand for it immediately. Okay, like within the next year, but then demands will drastically drop, right, from the year beyond that. So does a businessman uh, make factories considering that factor? He has to. Okay, he can't just think like right now I need say a billion units, so I'll just make 20 factories. Okay, that will produce these billion units. Okay, because like after 1 year you're going to have 19 factories that are going to be loss making entities, and it's going to affect your returns. So length of time is in that way. Okay, you consider length of time. All right. Okay, now the next thing, I think that's enough of demand. Okay, we've covered
Yeah.
enough of what demand should be. The next thing is what is complementary with demand?
Supply.
Excellent. Yes. So what are your concepts about supply?
So supply would be um supply. So the willingness of a producer to sell a good or service at any given price.
At any given price. Um,
Um,
okay, I'll tell you
or at any given period.
a simpler definition. Okay,
Yeah.
you're complicating it for yourself. Don't. Supply
Okay.
is the relation between the price of a good and the quantity available for sale at that price.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just put this up on the chat window, and you can go ahead and just write that as a definition of supply. Okay,
Yeah.
we know from the demand law, the law of demand that you know, that if the price of a product goes up, then the demand for that product goes down. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, could you tell me something on similar lines based on supply? What do you think?
So for the law of supply, as the price of a good increases, the quantity supplied would also increase. So there's a direct
Okay, it's not,
relationship.
yeah, if the
So
relationship is not inverse, as in the lot of
yes,
in
it's
the
not
law,
inverse. Yeah,
why
directly
is it?
proportional.
Why is it so? Why do you think it is?
So let's say from a producer's point of view, he's selling a product, right? And that product's not a trend anymore. But um, we can say like I guess a new product comes out and the price for that is very expensive, right? So
Okay.
the producer would obviously want to sell that type of product and make that much money. So the supplier would start making that product to try to earn the same money or
Okay.
make the same
So,
money.
basically, what you're telling is profit margin.
Yeah,
Okay. The term you were looking for was profit margins. When you have a product selling at high price, your profit margin on that product is more. So you will try to sell that product more.
yeah.
Simple. So, can you give me an example of something like the company Apple? So,
Yeah.
tell me one product of Apple, compare two products of Apple, in one where they produce or manufacture that one product in huge quantities and the other in low quantities, even though the other product, which is being manufactured in low quantities, is of a lower price.
Is so we can say like the latest phone compared to you know the previous phone, for example.
No, no. Okay, fine. Okay, we can look at it like that as well. But suppose I tell you about the laptops and the watches.
Yeah.
Okay, an
Okay.
Apple laptop is way more expensive than an Apple Watch, right?
Yeah.
Yet they manufacture more laptops than watches. Okay, because they need to supply more laptops. Because again, demand for laptops is higher. Again, you can look at it that way also, but let's not look at it that way. Let's look at it from the
Okay.
point of view of the supplier. So he will supply more laptops in the marketplace because he knows that he can make more profits on that product.
Yeah.
The margin of profit, cost of manufacturing, and the selling price, the eventual profit margin is higher. So he will try to
Yeah.
flood the marketplace with the laptops. Okay, so the law of supply is again something that's quite simple, nothing too complicated. Now we have something called supply schedule, which I think
Okay.
just like we had our demand schedule, that table, you have a supply schedule. You have a couple of columns depending on various factors. So again, it's the same thing: price and quantity supplied. Simple.
Yeah.
Okay. Instead of price and quantity demanded, the two, what to say, compulsory columns will be price and quantity supplied. So you will see that often in the market of video games.
Yeah.
Okay. The higher the price of the video game, or the higher the price of the accessory that comes with your laptop, like the wheel, suppose you get wheels, right? Uh,
Yeah.
where you can play that game, you can actually drive, okay, all that stuff. So higher the price, more is the supply. Okay.
Yeah.
You'll notice that in practical life if you just go to stores and all that, you'll see that. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about the supply curve. So, how do you
Okay.
think the supply curve should look like? You've seen the demand curve. Now you're seeing that it's an inverse of that. So, how should
Yeah.
the supply curve look like then to you?
So I guess we can say that it's the reflection of the demand curve.
Hmm, reflection? No, not the reflection of it. Okay, fine. You can say a kind of
I mean,
reflection.
yeah. So
A
demand
mirror
curve
reflection.
goes.
Yeah, 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 fine, fine, fine. It's a mirror reflection. Yeah. You
Yeah.
can just use some other. I just share screen. Mhm.
Oh yeah. So sir, one thing like in my school, right? We
Mhm.
we don't use the curve like the curve properly. So we just use the straight line. Miss
Okay.
said it doesn't really make a difference, and like
Uh,
next year we'll start
it,
using the curve. Yeah.
okay. That's a very that's something that doesn't matter. Again, I told you
Yeah.
because
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
you are not representing data values. You're just
Yeah.
showing the nature of something. As soon
Yep.
as you start adding, data based on the actual values, then you will see that it will never be a straight
Yeah.
line. Okay. So just to make you understand, they make it a straight line. But if you do a curve and your teacher gives it incorrect, you can challenge your teacher. Okay.
Yeah.
That's absolutely correct, writing it in a curve. So yeah, if you can see on your screen, I put up the supply curve. Okay. And the law of supply. The higher the price, the greater the quantity that producers are willing to sell. There's a direct relationship between the price of the good and the quantity of the good. So it is a positive slope. It's increasing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
price, quantity. Lower price, low quantity. Higher price, if you look on the left, higher price, quantity also has increased. So yeah, just note this down. Note these two things also down on the left. See, these initial chapters are very self-explanatory. Okay?
Yeah.
And I know like there's not much you know, in-depth explanation I'm giving you. I'm just telling you basic logical stuff. But then, yeah, that's what the chapter syllabus entails, so I can't help it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just note this down. Let me know when you're done, right? Writing
Yeah.
this down. Okay. So, supply code is done. The next thing, according to. Okay. What can cause a shift in the supply curve at entry price? Like how we heard factors affecting demand. What will be the factors affecting supply?
So supply. We
Here,
could say, for example, like a situation like the pandemic, right? The demand for sanitizers, face masks,
no,
it
forget about the
increased.
demand.
So
Forget about the
okay,
demand.
okay,
Okay.
yeah,
Like, just think about as a producer. Okay. So you are supplying something, right? So
yeah,
what are the factors that will affect my supply of anything? If I have to supply 500 units or I have to supply 2000 units, okay, that you're saying is what that is dependent on the demand. Okay, how many units I have to supply. But can I
yeah.
supply them? So what are the factors that affect me as a supplier?
So one factor could be availability of resources
Excellent.
to
That is the
produce.
most important factor.
Yeah,
Okay. You know,
cost of production.
cost of production, cost. Um,
So
that that is again interdependent on the availability of resources also.
yeah,
So we will term it as efficiency of the workforce.
yeah, okay,
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 not cost of production, but rather efficiency of the workforce. So two factors you said. One is the cost of the resources or the materials used to produce that product, and the
yeah,
second is the productivity or the efficiency of the workforce.
yeah.
Now, can you add a couple of more points to that? Like, what are the factors?
So we could say, hmm,
Think about it. Suppose you have a company. So,
yeah,
think about the demand. Like, you'll make a factory that has the capacity to say make 5,000 units of something. Now, if 200 is required in the marketplace, you make 200. If 5,000 is required, you make 5,000. But first, you have to be having the capability of manufacturing that, right? So think of it in terms of that. Forget the demand value. Just think.
so I mean, again, we could relate like seasonal change. For example, if I was a farmer, right? and or not seasonal change, but like
Seasonal change is
disasters, I guess.
seasonal change is something that you cannot control. Like
Yeah,
if it's mango season, like unless you have the tech to make it a year-round thing, which is different. That's when you go into a bigger level of industries. But in terms of what you're saying, a farmer, that is not in his hand. So tell me factors that are in your hands that you can or which can be controlled by human beings.
so could competition affect it? Competition between firms?
Competition won't affect my ability to supply the product. It will affect my ability to supply the product at a particular price. Okay.
Okay.
So, not my ability to supply that product. So,
Yeah.
uh, competition is something, again, you're looking at the marketplace. You're again going towards the marketplace. So, fine, I'll just tell you an example. So, another factor would be you could say
Yeah.
government policies, regulations set up by the government. So a government can, in a country, can start imposing a particular tax on an item for which you've never paid tax. So once there's a
Yeah.
tax imposed, your cost of making that product goes high. So that may affect your ability to make that product.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you have technology. Okay. Uh, if you get a machine that does the work of 10 laborers and does it quicker, then that will affect how much of the product you can supply. So
So could
technology.
we say efficiency of technology or technological advancements?
Yeah. You can phrase that in any way. You just know the
Okay.
topic, technology, and then you can, if you're comparing two different techs, then obviously efficiency of one tech over the other. If you're comparing a human being to a robot, it's humans versus tech. So in any angle
Yeah.
you can. Don't close your mind off to a word. Just keep it open. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not going to spoon feed you the exact answer you're going to write. I'm going to tell you the concepts of it. And
Yeah.
I since I've interacted with you now for an hour, your language speaking skills are good. Okay, you're
Thank you.
very
Yeah.
comfortable in the language, so I think you can frame the sentences and the
Yeah.
things you want to say in that manner. I don't have to give you line by line, like, write this
Yeah.
in law. Okay, I don't have to, baby guide you or something.
Yeah.
All I
Yeah.
have to do is teach you the concepts of it. All right. Then you have taxes. Government policies does involve taxes, but then you can have other policies as well. Like you cannot grow this
Okay.
plant in this country. Okay. So like if you look at marijuana being legalized in the US. Now, that
Yeah.
has affected the supplying capacity to a great extent of suppliers in that country, right?
Yeah.
So, in that context, it does affect government policies. It's not just taxes, and taxes can be taken as a separate point. Higher taxes means higher costs. So, yeah.
Yeah.
The next way a government can affect also is subsidies.
Oh yeah, I forgot about subsidies. Yeah.
So government can give a lot of, like, that's why they exist, right? The government is supposed to
Yeah.
help people. So you take taxpayers' money and you help the taxpayers or the people who are in most need. So yeah, subsidies is very important. All right.
Yeah.
So government payment to help to do something to reduce cost. Next is expectations. Okay. Your ability to supply or your infrastructure that you set up to supply will depend on your expectation of what the number of quantities of goods that you will sell. Right. So if you're expected to sell 10,000 units of a cell phone,
Yeah.
you have a factory accordingly. So expectations or, forecasting, if you want to change the terminology, can be, one factor as well of supplies. And the next is number of suppliers.
Okay.
Okay. So it's not like you will ever have monopoly on the market, that you are the only one supplying something which nobody else can. Okay. So you will obviously have a lot of number of suppliers. Okay. So more suppliers means more supply, less suppliers means less supply. Right? Obvious. Okay. What else? Okay, yeah. Now, how does the supply curve shift?
So I mean, it would still move. It would shift to the right. A shift to the right would mean an increase in supply, and a shift to the left would increase. I mean, a decrease in supply.
At every price level. Okay,
Yeah,
always
at every price. Yeah,
at every price level. All right, correct. So yeah, just write that, draw those
yeah,
two
sure.
graphs in the book. Later on, you may forget, so that will help you well. Again, when you're writing answers, write these graphs separately. Okay, you'll have
Yeah,
I think your questions will be 10, 12 marks. So if you can put in more data on it, that will help you in terms
yeah,
of your. Okay, all right.
yeah,
Now the next thing would be supply elasticity. Okay,
yeah,
so what exactly do you mean by supply elasticity? It means how much supply is affected by a change in price. Again, similar to demand. Okay, quantity changes great deal when price changes. So
yeah.
if you're supplying, say, like examples that always pop up are very subjective examples because real world applications. Can you give me an example of supply elasticity?
Um,
Like an inelastic supply elasticity. Suppose you know what elastic and inelastic are, right? You've done it for
yeah,
demand.
yeah,
So what
yeah.
is inelastic supply?
So for inelastic, you want me to give an example, right?
Of a
Like,
product that has
okay.
an inelastic supply.
Mm,
We actually gave the example in the first instance only when I asked you demand inelasticity.
so necessity, would a
Uh,
necessity be
you told me something in terms of
addiction? Yeah, so addictive for goods. Yeah,
addictive goods. Yes. So addictive goods have inelastic supply. They are
yeah,
available at same quantity at all times,
yeah,
regardless of the demand of the market. Let's not think about the demand. Let's just look at the supply. It's available at all times at the same quantities because they are always being produced at maximum efficiency. Okay. The people making them, they want to make crazy money, right? So
yeah,
they are produced at maximum efficiency. So hence, that would be an example of an inelastic supply.
yeah.
Elastic supply, what would you give an example of in terms of an elastic supply?
So elastic supply again, we can say luxury goods because I mean,
That's it.
if
Very good. Tell me one particular product. You're giving me a full
okay,
list of
okay,
products. One product.
yeah. So for example, if the cost of production for a car increases, right? Like a particular car, specific car, a car dealership uh, supplier would, I mean, obviously stop, like not stop, but reduce
No,
his.
not the dealership. That would be in the manufacturing. Okay.
Okay, yeah,
So,
true, yeah, fair.
the manufacturer is basically the one who is related to the supply. Okay. The
Yeah,
dealership is selling it. That's different.
yeah, 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 yeah,
But the manufacturer, so like suppose he is making cars out of a particular fiber.
yeah,
Like if you know the company Lotus, okay, it's quite a big company. It produces race cars and all that stuff. Looking into the future. Okay, so
yeah,
they have Formula One team as well. If you look at that car that it built, it's made of a different fiber altogether.
yeah,
Okay, so Lotus makes cars of a particular tech level. So as soon
yeah,
as that product that the availability, like the product which they use is not highly available, that's why they can't mass produce it. Okay, so as soon as they lose or they see that it's become too expensive to purchase the raw material, they will change their tech and evolve it to do it with something which is available in more quantities right now. Okay, so
yeah,
that's an example of an elastic. All right, so I think we've basically covered all the things that you said were in that file that you sent
yeah,
regarding unit, which was how markets work. It's
Okay.
given what is demand, what is supply, price elasticity of demand, price elasticity of supply, market price, and the impact of taxes. So,
Yeah.
taxes and subsidies are pretty clear. If a tax is imposed on a product, the cost
Yeah.
of the product goes high. If a
Yeah.
tax is removed, the cost of the product decreases.
Decreases.
And similarly for subsidies, if a subsidy is given, then the price of the product reduces. If a subsidy is taken away, which existed, then that price of that product increases because the cost
Yeah.
of production increases. Right. So, yeah, governmental effects. So, what I've taught you in all these 5 topics or 6 topics that you've given me is a very generalized version of everything. Okay. What I've taught you is basically what is, I am sure, definitely there in your book. Okay. Now
Yeah.
it's there in every book. Now I have to basically get to, I basically need the PDF of your book particularly so that I know specifically where the authors are focusing more on in terms of your curriculum.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we'll end the session here in terms of,
Okay.
let's just keep it light today. We've discussed
Yeah.
what demand is, what supply is, demand elasticity, supply
Yeah.
elasticity. We've done 3, 4 graphs related to each thing. Okay, and we've understood the concept of the graph. Now you're never going to forget it. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not something you need to study once again. It's there.
Yeah.
We've done the factors affecting demand and supply. We did a bit about at the beginning. We did a bit about what economics is and the 2 basic types or divisions we can divide economics into: micro, macro. Okay, and yeah, I think in terms of uh, the syllabus of how markets work, this would be good enough. Now we'll have to look
Yeah.
into practical data. Like what we've done is conceptual. Now, if you want to
Okay.
go further and delve deeper into this, I'll have to actually, get data for a product from official sources, and then we can see, like, is this concept actually, being applicable? It is. Okay, that's why they exist. But we
Yeah.
have to begin, right? We just learn the concept, so we can get into that. We'll do that next session onwards.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't be giving you any homework as such today either.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's let the first session just be. And don't worry in terms of covering the segments. You may be
Yeah.
thinking, so I have to study 4 units by Jan. Uh, I can get 4 units done. Okay, that's not a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't worry about that. Just remember to find a PDF of the book, the
Yeah. Yeah.
version that you are studying.
Yeah.
Okay, because like those
Yeah.
books are quite the IB curriculum books are quite expensive. So like
Yeah.
like it's 10 grand or something in India.
Yeah.
So like me purchasing that particular book just to teach you in particular like
Yeah.
doesn't make financial sense to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
just try to get a PDF and forward it to operations at Testprepkart. I think, are you
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
any other tuitions
Yeah.
at Testprepkart?
I have math and physics. I know what to
Okay,
do.
fine. So you know
Yeah.
how to forward everything, and all that's not an
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, just get the PDF and forward it, and
Yeah.
yeah, we'll continue next week. It was fun teaching you that.
Okay. Yeah.
Very,
Thank you for
very
teaching me.
long
It
time.
was fun meeting you.
And
Yeah.
the only sad thing is like I'm a Barca fan right now. Okay. So,
Yeah.
but the sad
Yeah.
right now. But it's cool.
Yeah.
They'll bounce back hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
Hopefully. Yeah.
yeah, yesterday United got knocked out of the Champions League. A
Yeah.
group
I know.
a group they led for 5 match days. In the sixth
Yeah.
match day they got knocked out. Again, like even the
Yeah.
giants fall. And that's what's happening to Barca. They rise back up. No worry. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll see you next week, and I'm hoping for the
Yeah.
5. By a couple
Yeah.
of days. That 5, if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
I'm sure like
Yeah.
you're a techie, so kind of
Yeah.
go online now and go
Yeah.
through all the websites and get it. So just get that
Yeah.
done.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Fine. Have a
Okay.
nice
Bye,
week.
sir. You too, sir.